Okay, so for the last portion of this section, we're given formulas and we're going to solve these formulas for different variables. So for number 7, we have the interest formula. I equals PRT, our simple interest formula, and we want to solve this for R. So currently R is on the right-hand side of our equation and it's being multiplied by P and T, so P times R times T. That means I need to divide out P and divide out T, and I have to match that on the left-hand side to isolate R. So this gives me R equals I divided by PT. Now when I type this in my lab math, it's case sensitive. Case sensitive. So what that means is if I had used I, lowercase, in the numerator, it would have marked it wrong. So make sure that whatever letters they're giving you, whichever variables, if it's lowercase, keep it lowercase. If it's uppercase, keep it uppercase. All right, so taking a look at number 8, we want to solve A equals 1/2 BH for B. So to do this, I'm going to start off by clearing my fractions. I have that 1/2 on the right, and I have an equation, so I can clear fractions. My least common denominator is 2, so I can multiply the left side and the right side by 2. This leaves me with 2 times A equal to, and on the right side, the 2 times the 1/2 cancels to 1. And then I'm just left with B times H. And now to solve for B, divide by H on both sides. Gives me B equals 2A over H. Make sure you keep that capital A. Now I just want to point out, a lot of people when they're looking at A equals 1/2 BH, solve for B, a lot of people might say, oh, okay, I'll just divide by 1/2 H, divide by 1/2 H. And then they get B equals A over 1/2 H. Now, while mathematically that's equivalent to the answer that I got, this isn't in simplified form. We've got a complex fraction, right? We've got a fraction inside a bigger fraction. It doesn't look good. So just be aware that this is not simplified form. That's why I recommend that you clear fractions first. All right, looking at question number 9, capital A equals lowercase a plus n minus 1 times d. I want to solve that for n. So first I would go ahead and distribute on the right-hand side just to get n out of those parentheses. So it's kind of like a reverse distribute. So plus d times n, and then minus d. Now solving for n, first I can subtract away my lowercase a, and I'll add my lowercase d to both sides. So now I have big A minus little a plus d equals d times n. And then as a final step, since we're solving for n, divide by d. And I'm going to divide by d all the way across that left-hand side. So there's my final answer. Okay, so just be aware that a lot of you guys will be wanting to simplify this, which is okay, but I don't think simplifying means what you necessarily think it'll mean. So a lot of you guys want to cancel out those d's, right? You're looking at the d over d and you're like, ugh, I can cancel those. So you want to write n equals a minus a plus 1, right? I know some of you guys are out there. So the bad news is we just got it wrong by doing that. We just got it wrong. If you want to simplify, you can, but simplifying would be n equals a minus a, big A minus little a over d, and then plus d over d would be plus 1. So the big A and the little a are still being divided by d. You can cancel the d's, but you can't remove the d from the denominator underneath the a's. Okay, so this would be okay, but we already had the right answer before, so I wouldn't mess with it. All right, number 10 says solve this equation for y. 7x plus 6y plus 12 equals 0 for y. So I'll start by subtracting 7x from both sides and subtracting 12 from both sides. So now I have 6y equals negative 7x minus 12. And then I can go and divide by my 6 on both sides. So this is fine as a correct answer if you want to leave it in this form. Negative 7x minus 12, the whole thing divided by 6. This is correct. Just erase that. Also, if you want to write this in your slope-intercept form, negative 7/6 times x minus 12 over 6, which would be 2. That's also fine. Okay. Just be very careful and very deliberate about how you're writing your final answer. There are different ways to write these. Just make sure that the way that you're writing it is one of the correct options. So don't get sloppy with these. All right, and in our last example, capital A equals 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. I want to solve this for h. We want to solve this for our height. All right, so the tricky part about this one is notice that h appears in 2 different terms. So this is going to complicate things just a little bit. But first, at least we can go ahead and subtract 2lw from both sides. So this gives me a minus 2lw equals 2lh plus 2wh. All right, now this next trick is what I want you to use whenever you have 2 terms with your variable like we do now. So we have h appearing in both of these terms. So think about factoring. We're going to use a factoring technique here. And we're not technically going to pull out the greatest common factor. We're not pulling out the GCH, which would be 2 times h, because that's too much. We don't really need to do that. All we need to do is factor out that common h. So if I factor out h in front of this, that leaves me with 2 times L plus 2 times W. And I still have A minus 2LW on the left. And now I'm trying to solve for h, so now all I have to do is divide by what's in parentheses there. Divide by that 2L plus 2W. Just make sure I match it on both sides. So that leaves me with h equals A minus 2LW, whole thing divided by 2L plus 2W. All right, and I know you guys want to cancel out those 2's. You're looking at them and you're like, oh, I just want to get rid of them. I want to cross them all out. It feels great. But you cannot get rid of them. You cannot cancel them out because A doesn't have a 2 in front of it. All right, so please don't go crossing out those 2's. That'll get you the wrong answer. We've already got the correct answer. Just walk away.